Have you ever stood in front of a fire, feeling its warmth, its quiet invitation, and then stepped away only to realize it does not follow you, yet its glow somehow stays with you? This is the paradox of feminine detachment. A woman who turns inward becomes more visible, more magnetic in ways that cannot be explained by effort. She withdraws not out of bitterness but out of deep respect for her own soul, and in doing so, she awakens something ancient within the masculine psyche, a longing not for ownership, but for pursuit. Men, even when they cannot put it into words, are drawn not to the woman who clings, but to the one who stands sovereign. It is not rejection that moves them. It is the mysterious presence of absence. She is no longer tied, yet her memory lingers like the scent of something sacred, something once known and now missed. He begins to wonder, what changed? What did I overlook while my eyes were elsewhere? And so the dance begins again, not between need and fulfillment, but between two independent souls circling the truth of their own completeness. You were never meant to beg nor to persuade. When you remember this, you do not become less loving. You become more whole. This is not manipulation. It is not a tactic. It is transformation. And the moment you return to yourself, the world must adjust the way it sees you. Detachment is not the absence of care, nor is it a mask used to hide the desire for love. It is not the cold shoulder, nor the calculated delay in responding. Those belong to performance, to forced indifference meant to create confusion. But the soul, ancient and perceptive, knows the difference. True detachment is the stillness of a deep lake. You may throw a stone, but the water returns to calm, untouched by the ripple. It is not resistance, it is presence. A woman rooted in herself does not step back out of spite, nor pretend disinterest to spark desire. She steps back because she remembers her center was never meant to live in another's gaze. You may have been told that, to keep someone interested, you must withhold. But the psyche senses the artificial nature of this. When detachment becomes a strategy, it carries the smell of insecurity. It is the fear of not being chosen wrapped in the costume of control. That is not detachment. That is dependence wearing a disguise. Real detachment is born when a person no longer seeks completion through another. She no longer waits at the doorway of approval, nor reshapes herself to fit a story not written by her own soul. Instead, she lives. She dances not to be watched, but because her blood remembers rhythm. She speaks not to be validated, but because her voice belongs to the wind and must move. He feels it too. The man whose presence once held her attention now senses a change. She no longer revolves around him, and in this new gravity he feels drawn not to control her, but to meet her where she stands in sovereignty. And you, as you awaken, must ask yourself, is my stillness born from trust or from fear? The answer does not live in the mind, it lives in the body. If your chest tightens in waiting, if your thoughts race for his return, you are not detached. You are separated from yourself. But when your breath softens, when your gaze turns inward, when your joy comes from within, you have entered the sanctuary of true detachment. From here, love is no longer pursuit, it becomes presence. There comes a quiet moment, unannounced, when a woman once tied to another's gaze feels the pull of something older than desire. It does not call from outside, but from within. Not a voice, but a silence asking, who are you when no one is watching? This is the first echo of individuation, the sacred path toward the self. Individuation is not simple self-improvement. It is not polishing the mask to gain admiration. It is the slow, often painful shedding of illusions, the inherited ones, the imposed ones, and especially the ones adopted just to survive. To individuate is to remember what the soul knew before the world taught it to forget. Imagine a sword being forged. The metal must face fire, be struck again and again, folded until the impurities leave. The woman walking the path of individuation passes through that same fire. Her pain is not meaningless. It is transformative. What once shattered her becomes the very heat that strengthens her. She once looked outward for reflection, hoping to see herself in someone else's eyes. Now she turns inward. The mirror becomes her dreams, her instincts, her patterns. There, deep within her psyche, she meets the lost pieces of herself, the child who silenced her voice, the maiden who confused sacrifice with love, the shadow that whispered, "You are not enough." And something begins to change. She stops chasing, she stops proving, she stops pretending. She no longer reshapes herself to fit spaces that were never built to hold her. She walks differently now, not with arrogance but with clarity. The same men who once held her focus now appear as they truly are, not villains, not saviors, but mirrors. Some reflect old wounds, others reveal new thresholds. To individuate is to leave the shared dream of dependency. She no longer believes she must be chosen to be worthy. She understands the only union that frees her is the one between her conscious self and her unconscious depths. Romantic love does not complete her. Wholeness draws real love toward her. He notices, not logically but instinctively. The woman before him is no longer a puzzle to solve or a flame to tame. She is a presence. Loving her will not mean possession but transformation. And that frightens him because real love always asks the ego to die. And you feel this shift too. You no longer ask, does he want me? You ask, do I recognize myself when I am with him? This is how you know individuation has begun. You are no longer a fragment searching for completion. You are whole, and from that wholeness, love becomes a reflection, not a destination. A man stands before her, charming, magnetic, mysterious, and without realizing it, she sees not him, but her longing. He speaks, but it is not his words that captivate her. It is the voice within her that answers. She believes she knows him, but what she recognizes is her own reflection cast upon him. This is projection, the ancient dance of illusion. You project not because you are weak, but because you are human. The unconscious seeks expression, and the easiest mirror is the one you desire most. You are drawn not only to who they are, but to what they awaken in you, so love becomes a maze. He becomes her rescuer, her destroyer, her missing piece. She becomes his savior, his dream, his comfort. They do not see each other. They see archetypes, shadows, unlived lives. But projection cannot last forever. What begins as magic often becomes disappointment. The illusion breaks. The rescuer does not rescue. The perfect image reveals its humanity. This is not failure, it is clarity. You begin to ask, did I love him, or who I imagined he could be? To withdraw projection is not to love less, but to love honestly. It is to let the other be human, and to reclaim the parts of yourself you placed in their hands. When you stop seeking wholeness in another, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see him not as your reflection, but as a companion. Emotional dependency disguises itself as devotion. It whispers that you need another to feel complete, but self-sufficiency is different. It is the rooted tree, strong, nourished from within. The self-sufficient woman does not demand attention. She naturally holds it. Her joy is self-generated. Her silence is a sanctuary, and paradoxically that is what makes her magnetic. You may wonder, if I do not need him, will he still want me? Even more. Because need creates pressure, but presence creates desire. Love from dependency clings. Love from wholeness invites. So ask yourself honestly, do you reach out to connect or to avoid loneliness? When you nourish your own roots, you stop chasing and start blooming. There is a kind of woman whose presence shifts a room without effort. Not loud, not desperate, yet undeniable. This is the energy of detachment, not coldness, but self-possession, like the moon pulling oceans from afar, silent yet powerful. The most magnetic energy is never need, it is wholeness. Detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means your feelings no longer control you. You remain open but grounded. Have you ever seen someone chase affection desperately? Desperation clouds beauty. But when you remember your own light, people move closer. Not because you beg, but because you no longer needed to. A flame does not chase moths. It burns and they come. A mountain does not beg clouds to gather. It stands and weather forms around it. This energy cannot be faked. It must be lived. It comes when you reclaim the parts of yourself scattered in the pursuit of being chosen. From here, detachment becomes natural. You do not try to be lovable. You love yourself, and others come not to fix you, but to witness your glow. There are moments when the most powerful response is silence, not passive, not manipulative, but grounded. Silence can create space for reflection, for truth. Non-reaction removes fuel from conflict. But this power cannot be pretended. It comes from self-possession. When you are secure, silence becomes strength. And then there is purpose, the quiet flame that does not chase attention but creates meaning. A woman with purpose is not easily shaken. She is already moving, already building. People are drawn not just to her beauty, but to her direction. Purpose gives authenticity to love. Without it, love becomes performance. With it, love stands tall. Think of the women you admire, artists, healers, voices of change. Their magnetism comes from alignment. And you carry that same flame. When you live from it, the question, "Am I enough?" disappears. You become the answer. At the end of every shadowed path waits the light of the self, not dazzling, but steady. This is the destination, not to be needed, but to be whole. True relationships are not built on dependency, but on two whole souls walking beside each other. So walk forward with reverence, not urgency. Live as love itself. Those meant to walk with you will find your rhythm, not because you chased them, but because you resonated. Let that be your path, your peace, and your power.